Hello and welcome to today's B2B marketing clinic live on LinkedIn, and we're also on TikTok as well. So today we're going to be talking about the biggest marketing trends for 2022, and I'm losing my microphone already for TikTok. Sorry, guys. We're going to be talking about the trends to look out for in how buyers make decisions in B2B in 2022. And yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping into this with you. So if you have any questions at all, I just want you to add them to the comments box, whether you're on TikTok or LinkedIn. I'm going to spend the first 10 to 15 minutes talking about these trends, these factors that are affecting how people buy B2B products and services today in 2022. And then any questions that you get, just pop them in the comments as I chat, and we're going to do a Q&A afterwards. So the first thing to say is to give a bit of background. So I'm Jade, I'm a B2B marketing consultant and a coach and mentor for freelancers and B2B marketers. And I help companies to really understand what they need to do in order to set up their business and their marketing to meet the demands of their end buyers. Now, things have dramatically changed, and this causes a really big challenge for B2B companies in that many of us are still selling in the same ways that we were pre-2010. So I'm hoping that today's content is going to give some background to you if you're currently struggling with your marketing in your B2B company, if you're finding things like price sensitivity, not opting for quality over price, if you're struggling with perhaps you've got a more traditional outbound sales model, such as telesales, cold email outreach, if you're struggling with those things, today is going to give you some answers as to why that most likely is not working in the same ways and to the same effect as it did previously. So the first thing to talk about is that during the pandemic, so the reason that 2022 is such a big year in terms of the shifts that we're seeing and the changes that we're seeing, the pandemic really did change a huge amount. So we moved to remote working, which was by no means easy. But what happened is that remote sales and buying went remote too. So the number of touch points that buyers used or embodied before making contact with a company rose by 10 points. Now, what that means is that where before, let's say you've got 17 touch points, you research something, you look at something else, you download a piece of content, you visit a website, you ask for a demo. Let's say before there was 17 touch points, there's now something like 27. And usually year on year, that increases by just one. And this is according to a report that's come out by Forrester, which I'll link at the end. So what's happened is that because people became familiar during the pandemic with not having meetings anymore, their existing behavior of researching online grew to quite an extent. And so they became comfortable and used to not meeting people in real life for finding out information about products and services. They became even more confident to just find the information needed online. So purchasing has changed. Now, interestingly, according to Forbes, 3/4 of the decision-making process can be made before B2B buyers make themselves known to us. And why this is so important is that our websites can no longer be what they used to be, which is a online brochure. Click here to download our brochure, or click here to view a demo of our product. And what that means is that we do now need to make sure that we're presenting our potential buyers with what they're looking for, and make sure that what they need, we're catering to help them make their decisions. So what we need to do with this information is understand that the education process among our buyers doesn't start with when they get in contact with us. We tend to now have very enlightened buyers. And so having the role of the sales rep as the primary commercial function is a trend that's changing, because where before we had no choice but to speak to people and we had to ask them the questions that we were kind of in their hands and we couldn't find that information elsewhere. When the internet was in its more infancy stage from a B2B marketing perspective, there wasn't the content online to help us solve their problems. But today, B2B buyers go everywhere for information, and that information exists for them. They can join webinars to learn more about the challenge they're facing. They can download reports in their industry, and they can find out what they need to find out about the products and solutions that they want to decide on before making contact. Now, one of the things to think about is online communities. So very senior buyers will go into Facebook groups that are geared to their job and and performance in their role. And they will ask around, hey guys, what's the best cloud accountancy software that I should be investing in? And depending on what they say, they might research those businesses, have a look at the pricing online. Now, I'm not saying that every B2B company is able to provide pricing online. Absolutely. There are things that are far more complicated in terms of making a decision, and some things we can't price. Like many of the clients I work with, you wouldn't be able to put pricing online. However, it's about giving people as much as they need in that particular industry to encourage them that we would be the vendor that they should speak to when they come to talking to people. So if our websites are still set up as purely, okay, here's what we do, here's where we're based, and these are the ways that we can work together, and here's a link to inquire with us, it just isn't enough anymore. And so if you've seen inquiries drop or quality of inquiries drop, if you're finding that outbound sales efforts are reducing and you're having a problem with those, this can be a big reason for that. So keep in mind, B2B buyers go everywhere for information, and we only have to reflect on how we buy. I was talking to a client the other day who is investing in a new business system. So that's going to be CRM, finance, pulling it all together. And they explained to me that they've been doing loads of online research over the last 3 to 4 months, whittling down the different products, working out, diagnosing what is the issue they're facing. And so they then said, I'm going to contact the 2 or 3 that I think would best meet what I need. And we're going to be having calls with them in the next few weeks. They also talked about the fact that the whole senior management team will be involved in the decision-making process, which tells us that another complexity in B2B that is also increasing is that more decision makers and influencers coming to the table in recent years. And so if we can find ways in our marketing to make sure that all of those concerns, all of those issues, all of those challenges that our buyers are facing, if we can be the brand in our category to best articulate, here's what you're going through, we recognize your frustration, we think this could really help you, we're going to be the ones that they want to turn to. So thinking about that long research phase when they're on our site is pretty late on into the journey. What we want to be doing is thinking about earlier on, what can we do to be where they're looking, providing valuable assets, providing them with help, guiding them softly, gently toward our solution. Because if we fundamentally believe that the way we do it is going to be best, then that is the right thing to do. Like, help them be where they are. As and when you have questions about this topic, please pop them into the chat and I will answer all of your questions. And I'm just making sure that, brilliant, okay. So yeah, B2B buyers go everywhere for information. What else do we need to look at? And thank you, I've got a question here on TikTok that I'm going to cover in a second. This is mind-blowing to me. B2B buyers now spend 26% of their time researching independently online. And what this means is that it's not about how far along the buyer journey they are. We've already said that 3/4 of the purchasing decision-making is done before a B2B buyer will typically get in contact with a vendor or solution provider. This is about the percentage of their overall time that they are spending in the buying process. So let's say they have 4 meetings at an hour each. That's 4 hours. That could be 5% of the overall time spent on their decision-making process. What this is saying is that B2B buyers will spend more than a quarter of the entire time researching on their own online. That's huge. That's things like watching YouTube videos to learn, watching product demos, researching in community groups. This is our consumer behavior does impact our buying behavior as B2B buyers. So we can't say anymore, oh yeah, but that's in B2C. It's nothing like that for us, because when we reflect on how we buy things, we do that. And because of the amount of information, valuable information, problem solving information, reviews that's available online, people are far less willing to give up their precious time in their diary to just find out the basics about a company. And it can be the difference between visiting a site to check it out and just instantly exiting it because there isn't the answers that was needed. So thank you, Jessica, for your question. I'm going to get straight to that. That's an awesome question. So what this means for us is that we have to, if we want to capture the demand of these people, if we want to be known in our category for solving the problem in the best way possible, we have to be where these people are. We have to be providing endless, selfless value to these people. So a quarter of that time. Now you compare this with this same report. This is the Gartner Future of Sales 2025 report. That is worth a read. And marketers get obsessed with Gartner. So I wanted to pull out the highlights for you so that you don't have to read this long report, but you can if you want. So this is compared with just 17% of time spent with salespeople, but it gets worse. That's 5% with any one salesperson or business development person. And this is across the board. So in different industries, it will be different numbers. So obviously, if there is a more people focused, like complex consultancy based sell, that number could go up. And in other businesses, it could be fully online now. But in general, 5% of time is allocated to any one salesperson at a company, which means that 5 times longer is being spent researching online than is being given to you and your B2B company. And so we really have to start making the steps towards what are we going to do to adapt our companies to meet where buyers are today. Because many of my inquiries today are sales are not coming in, our leads are not coming in like they used to. What can we do to get more leads? And I'm like, okay, it's not a game just of getting leads anymore. We have to be creating demand. We have to be providing value. We have to be setting ourselves above the rest. Now, a common argument for this in B2B is, yeah, but my customers pick me based on relationships. That's wonderful. If you've got existing contacts that you can nurture really well, and as that grows, have the systems in place to make sure that you're nurturing and keeping in contact with people, that's great. But if you're wanting to attract in additional people, new people who've never heard of you, what can we do? We can't rely just on, oh, we've got a website live that says what we sell and an inquiry form and download our brochure, and we've got a bit of pay-per-click advertising going on. If it's not working for you, I'm saying, if it's not working for you as best as you would like it, it's usually going to be down to that issue of we're not doing anything earlier on. We're not providing value to build trust. We're not a parallel partner to that buyer, helping them along their journey. And so, ask me any questions at all about how we can do that. So I've got a question here from Jessica. Hey, Jess, it's so nice to see you. Is SEO going to be super important, more so than before? Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of talk about SEO in some ways becoming less important, because if our websites are not where people are looking for information, if we're not able anymore to realistically compete with all of the amazing content out there on the internet, there's the argument that we should be spending our resources and time more in places like dark social, where people are spending their time, but it's not easily measurable. And so how can we put things in front of those guys away from our website? I think that with SEO, what's super important is realizing buyer intent. So what is the search term? And where are we taking them based on that? So if someone is literally in research stage, we don't want to be sending them to a sales optimized landing page, because they're pretty much, in terms of our SEO, and if any pay-per-click advertising happens as well, we want to make sure that we're really super specific with what we're optimizing based on what keywords we're trying to rank for. We want to make sure that if we're trying to capture people when they're ready to buy, that we're really super zoned in on what are the right terms. So I think from a channel perspective, it's hard to say if a channel is going to be more important than before, but I do think that it's always going to be important to rank for your category ready for when someone is ready to buy. So we don't want to just be over here creating incredible content, providing loads of value in the different places that people are, such as having a YouTube channel or appearing on guest interviews, or being, available to people in different community spaces, responding to their questions, hosting webinars, anything that's going to help them to go, oh yeah, I've got that problem. That's going to be valuable information to me, and there is nothing in return being asked of me. It's just helping me. We can do all that stuff. But then in terms of, once we've helped nurture them into, okay, this is my problem, this is what I can consider as different solutions. I know my frustration. I know something's not working. I know something's not right. This is the buyer journey. They're in awareness phase, and that's awareness of the problem. I have a problem. These are the symptoms of that problem. This is what's frustrating me. What can I do next? I can go into, okay, decision consideration phase, which is, what are the different things I can apply to solve this problem? So again, we're not in consideration of different partners. We're still in consideration of how to solve the problem. Like, I need a drink, or I feel fatigued. Do I need a drink, or do I need a rest? And then if I choose drink, is it going to be a fizzy drink, a coffee, or a water? And on that note, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, keep my brain going. And so then when they do reach, okay, if we can help encourage them into going, the problem you face, we've diagnosed it for you here, so that the buyer's like, yes, that's what I'm going through. That's my challenge. That's my frustration with what I'm currently doing. And I've tried all these things. And yes, you've gotten straight to the point, to the heart of the issue. And then I'm now aware of your category. You've raised the profile of your category. And now when I do a search in the future, when I'm ready to buy, hopefully I'm going to find you. So it's kind of as important as it was. It's just changing in, I think, doing only SEO and only lead generation advertising is going to become more and more challenging. I don't like advice that's kind of, this is this and that's wrong, this is dead and that's alive, because the fundamentals of marketing will always be the same. What do we need to achieve as a company? What is going to be the most effective and efficient way to get to that goal with the resources that we have available, and working from there. So if SEO is playing an important role in the strategy, absolutely, but we need to assess based on how buyer behaviors are shifting. Jacob has a question. Hi, Jacob. Really good to see you on here. So we need content. What is the best way to research what is really interesting to the target group of customers and what really brings value to them? That's a really great question. And it's one that I feel marketers struggle with the most, because, like, say, for example, me, I'm a marketing consultant and coach, and it's one person. And so my content strategy is listen. Like you guys, you've just asked me questions. My TikTok gets loads of questions. And so that helps inform my content strategy, because I'm like, that's the pain points of my audience from a mentoring and coaching perspective. And then with my corporate director clients, I listen in on, when we have an introduction call, what are their challenges, what are their pain points, what are they struggling with? And I directly turn that into my content strategy. So for example, 80% of the leads that I get through, most of my leads come through LinkedIn. And 80% of those, it always starts with, hey, Jade, I saw a video or a post that you put out. That's exactly what we're going through. We've tried loads of different things and none of it's working. I think maybe we need a strategy. Could we talk to you? That's what they always talk about. And so my content strategy is really clear. It's like, here's why your marketing isn't working. Here's why you need a strategy. and I talk about something called the B2B marketing gap. And I have a podcast with that name. So if you go on Spotify, you can have a listen to more of this stuff. And that's what my content. So I'm very close to my people, and it's very easy. Marketers, it can be challenging because if you're not close to the clients, it's difficult to know what they're after. So I suggest for this, you can, if you're doing anything like SEO and PPC, you can find data from those. You can find keyword research, all these tools. That's one way. You can speak to salespeople and you can ask them things like, what are the big issues that our buyers face? What do they find frustrating about the other things they've tried? What don't they like about our market in general? What do they find difficult? And what have they tried that hasn't worked? What's kind of bothering them? What are the things that when you're speaking to them as a salesperson lights up their eyes? Because I'm from a background in sales, and I was always, naturally drawn to what's the things I say that makes people go, oh yeah, that we're going through that. So you can do that. I highly recommend is the best option, interviewing people. Just speak, because in B2B we have the luxury of, we have smaller customer groups usually. So it can be quite easy to just ask to speak to some clients and be like, what is it that troubles you? In the context of what we do, what do you find frustrating? So let's say you're a design company and you want to find out what your content strategy should be. I would be speaking to my favorite clients and I'd be saying, okay, tell me about a bad experience you've had with a design company in the past. What do you really not like? What's really irritating? Maybe that's typos in content that's meant to be proofread. Maybe it's that they're not getting the message across very well in the campaign and the design is not communications led. Maybe it's sloppy time management. Find out the frustrations and then be like, well, why do you love working with us? What do you think is great about us? This is not an improvement survey. This is trying to find out for the brand, what are our sweet spots? What makes us stand out above the rest? So in what ways do you feel that we would be a great partner to work with? And then questions like, why would you choose us for a project in the future? Why wouldn't you choose us for a project in the future? It helps you to start to see from their perspective why your brand or product would be the best option, because we don't want to talk about stuff just because it's an issue for companies. We want to talk about it in the context of where we're really strong. So if I had my content strategy geared around SEO, just because that topic's just come up, I'm a generalist, so I know a fair amount about SEO, but it's not going to be my front foot because I don't want SEO specific inquiries. I want strategic inquiries like, okay, we've got a business challenge. How do we overcome that through marketing? And so I would gear my content not around that because it's just not specific to me. So even though it might be bothering a client, I wouldn't go there. The same way if a client of mine, a direct client in a B2B company, like a manufacturing business, they might be struggling with something to do with their business systems. Absolutely, when I'm consulting with them on their marketing, if that comes up, I can say, hey, you know what? I've got some consultants who really specialize in that. Let's get a chat set up and get you sorted with that. But just because it's a pain point for them, even in their marketing, I'm not going to have it as my front foot. So I want to know, what is it about my business that really meets your needs, so that I can find out my strengths. You can also use a website called answerthepublic.com, and you type in a term and it will give you stuff that's like what people are searching. You can do cool things on YouTube, like you can connect TubeBuddy and you can type in titles and it will give you a rank, a score as to how strong that's going to be. So there's lots of different things you can do, but I think in what we do in B2B, I think there's no getting away from understanding who are we targeting and what do they care about. Now, I've got another question. So let's get this question. Okay. How to create brand awareness for a startup company. Okay. It'd be really great if you could add a little bit about the industry for this question. Thank you for that question. It's really interesting. Startups are interesting because if they're not marketing led, it can be a real challenge because there's not always the funds to fully outsource all of the marketing. So generally, you want the startup founder to be incredible at marketing. So I would say that you want to be, so we want to talk about the difference between brand awareness and something called demand generation. So brand awareness is once someone is aware of the group of companies in your sector. And so being made aware of, okay, we're a really good choice when you're looking for someone like us. And that's one thing. And so it's a green energy business. Yeah. Okay. So what we want to do is start with that brand positioning piece. So we want to find out why this energy business would be the better fit as a partner for whoever it is that you're trying to connect with, and then work out what the weaknesses of the competitors would be, what the frustrations of the end clients are in this context. Like, what do they not like about your category, and what can we do to find out more about them? You're very welcome. Thanks for your question. And so then what we want to do is come up with our brand positioning so that when someone does stumble upon us, we're very clear about, hey, this is why you would choose us. You've tried that stuff. Here's your frustrations, and here's why we'd be well set up to help. So we want to get that sorted, because brand awareness, it's kind of like, yes, someone could be aware of your brand, but are they necessarily going to be motivated to choose you among the others? So that is super important. Now, if your challenge is that nobody knows of you, I would suggest getting nifty with researching where your buyers spend their time and how can you get in front of them with valuable, helpful content. So what is it that you could do that would help them with their challenge above what the others are doing? So for example, maybe you're hosting like what I'm doing right now. This is going to be every week at 2:00. It's the second one. So over time, this is going to grow and people will hear about it. And in a year from now, it could well be that lots of people join and it's really great for my marketing. So this is part of a wider strategy for me. And also just the fact that I love talking about marketing, and this is a great place to do that. And so if you can think for this business, what do they need to create in content terms, whether that be some YouTube videos that are talking about the challenge that the end customer faces, a podcast, going live every week on LinkedIn, and then repurposing that content, putting, like, for example, this on LinkedIn is being recorded and will be uploaded to my LinkedIn and then chunked out to be different small short form content. So it's really about, and this can sound fluffy to people, but this is how we raise awareness of how we can help solve problems and in turn create demand for the approach we have, and then in turn have the biggest trust built in the category that we're in. And so brand awareness is really about how can we help and build a bit of a community of people and get in front of those people. Now, a great thing for you could be, let's say you find out that LinkedIn is a great place and a great platform for you to be. Maybe you could have a content strategy on LinkedIn, really look into creator tools and work out how that's going to work for you, and then have a look at which perform best, and then put some advertising budget behind the ones that really seem to resonate with your target audience. And my last piece of advice here is be consistent and show up. Like my American friends, they always say, show up. Like you have to commit to something, because the biggest reason that B2B marketing tends to fall down is that we go, oh, we tried email marketing, it didn't really work for us. Oh, we tried a podcast, it didn't take off. But if we can consistently stick to a strategy that we have well researched and really go for it, today, for example, I've got quite a few questions. Where am I going to be in a year if I keep doing these lives? It's about having that clear strategy, and behind that, what is the purpose of what we're doing? And so finding ways to build brand legitimacy, brand trust can also help with that brand awareness. And then making sure that when people are in the market to buy, that's when we are able to appear there as well. So it's not about abandoning lead generation strategies, but unfortunately, there will be lots of companies who longer term it just becomes really difficult, because if you don't have senior in-house marketing, if you don't have an effective budget setup, and if anyone wants to look on my LinkedIn, I've got a tool to calculate what your marketing budget should be. So Jade Tambini on LinkedIn. If we're not already connected, there's a tool and a formula on there to find out what your marketing budget should be. As long as you have a healthy profit margin of 15% and above, you can then assess where your budget is in line with where it should be potentially. And I would have to have a consultancy session with someone to absolutely guarantee what their budget should be. But it gives you a sense of, are we kind of set up with a budget that at least can help us to get off the ground? I hope that's useful. Please do ask any follow-up question on here if anything is useful for you, because there's not. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so question on LinkedIn. What do you do with that info then? Articles, blogs, and then presumably SEO to push that? Okay, so I think that you're talking here in this question about what to do once you've found the pain points. Yeah, okay, perfect. Let me know if I'm wrong. What do we do next? Okay, so we want to create a content plan, a content strategy, and that needs to start with, what are we trying to do? Like, what is the aim? Is it to... I know the type of company that you're in. So is it that we want to make a case for why our studio would definitely be a better option than the others out there? Because the beauty with demand generation and helping people through their buyer journeys, you get less inquiries on a pitch scenario. You get more people like, oh, I need to work with you. Can we talk? And that's where demand generation really comes into its own. It's like, oh, I've been following all your stuff. That's exactly what we're going through. And they don't feel the need to have 3 or 4 studios pitching. And so what you'd want to do is create a content strategy based on what is it you want to do. Are you wanting to get across really clearly a very specific reason as to why most studios don't deliver the best service ever, and the things in which would need to be considered to have an effective partnership with a studio? So not selling yourself, but like, these are the common things that people don't like about dealing with studios like ours. And just, this is the pain point still. This is not the content suggestion. And then, if that's the goal, is to help them see those guys definitely would be better for me. They would definitely produce better results, because obviously every studio can share creative examples. Every, business can demonstrate its solutions. Every B2B company can show, here's our bank of case studies, because you expect someone to be able to meet the basics. Like, if someone says, we provide accountancy solutions, you expect them to be expert at that. It's just what I call a hygiene factor. Just like, oh, we're trusted, we're innovative, we're creative. It's like, well, I would expect you to be. And anybody who said they weren't, I would find quite shocking. So once we've created the idea of like, here's the goal for our content strategy, this is what we want to do. Like, for example, content strategy goal on TikTok, which is a very different platform than my LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn is where I connect and engage with directors of B2B businesses who want help translating their business strategy into a marketing strategy. Whereas on TikTok, I connect with Gen Z people who are younger, who are like a younger version of me, and who may be interested in getting guidance throughout their career. So my content strategy is short form content on TikTok to help them learn new skills in marketing. And so I might create one of my podcasts, which is my long form content. And then, so I'll do an episode on the podcast, and then I will chunk that down into 3 or 4 TikTok videos. And then in the TikTok video, I'm like, more on this in the podcast, link in bio. And so what I'm doing there is I'm encouraging people in on the short form. And I'm like, if you want to move down my funnel a little bit further, you can jump on the podcast where there's even more help. And then the next step is like, there's a live lesson for free for you to try out some advice. And then I'm super happy if that's all they need and that helps them, because I am on a mission to help marketers as well. But if they do want to jump onto one of my live lessons, which is a small fee, they can find all the links to that through the podcast. And so it's just that kind of funnel, helping them out. So my content strategy is, I've got pillar platforms. So if you can pick your pillar platforms. So like for me, I'm present on Instagram, but it's not a pillar platform for me. It's just a channel I'm on because I like being on stories to keep my contacts up to date with what I'm doing. But my pillar platforms are LinkedIn because my corporate directors are there, and TikTok because my Gen Z marketing mentor clients are on there. And so you've got your platform. So pick as few platforms as possible so that it's realistic to focus on those, and then work out, okay, what forms of content is going to help. Okay, so right, what do we like producing? So I like producing podcasts. My audience is like listening in the car. I prefer it to video because I don't have to do the whole like makeup thing, and like I'm a busy mum. And podcasts are just an outlet for me too. So as long as I'm strategic with the topics and have it led by the questions that I get through TikTok and wherever else, and these today, then I know it's going to be specific to the user. I'm then I need to be very consistent with that. So like if I'm going to do a podcast every week, I'm doing it every week. And in turn, the 3 or 4 TikTok videos to support that. And then the same with LinkedIn. This, for example, this is going to be then added to my YouTube page, and it's going to be trimmed down into different clips to share. And I'll probably use the audio to go on the podcast too, because that's a nice, easy one. And then what starts to happen over time, and this happens for me, for my company, is that the more consistent I am with sharing valuable content, the more inquiries that I get, but they're of a very, very high value because they're like, oh, that really is exactly what we needed. Could we talk? And so that is what I would say to do, is pick your pillar platforms and pick your content pillars. So what are the 3 things we're going to talk about that are really important to our end buyer? So any B2B company can do this, do the insight work to find out what frustrates them, what they care about, and then come up with content themes, and just have 2 or 3 and stick to them, because you will become known for those things. And so most B2B companies, content marketing fails because they're talking about stuff that their audience doesn't care about, but they feel good about the content because their peers are liking it, or you've got friends going, yay, go, that's awesome. But unless you've got actual buyers who, you're not doing content to impress your peers, are you? You want results. So if you can find a way to target those pain points, and then through your content create content that's going to help them. But yeah, back to your question of blogs, articles, that you need to have a bit of a think about, what do they need at each stage? Like, what are they doing? Like research, talk to 10 or 15 of your clients. Where do you consume content? Do you watch YouTube videos to give you help? Do you read articles when you're stuck on something? Where are you? Are you in Facebook communities? Are you listening to podcasts on the way to work? That type of stuff can help inform what you do. But you also need to make sure, okay, is this going to be something that we're happy to talk about? Is it something that we want to do? Because you have to want to do it. Like, I tried YouTube for a while, and I do post on YouTube every now and then, but it's not my pillar platform because I don't enjoy it as much. And so podcast is my pillar platform. Okay, so the other thing that I was going to talk to you about is, where is it gone? So the sources that we talked about today that you can go and look at. Any more questions that anybody here has, please drop them in comments. Any observations, really happy to chat. I've still got a little bit of time. So have a look at the Forrester's 2021 B2B buying study, the Gartner Future of Sales 2025 report, and there's an article on Forbes about a piece of research that Arceti Group did on the B2B technology CMO roundtable. And that had 90 gathered insights from quite a lot of senior leaders about what they're doing next. Now, the biggest thing to leave us on is, if there's one message I can leave behind for directors of B2B companies or marketers working in B2B, is the way people buy has changed, and the way that we're selling hasn't. And so it's kind of, we can see where people are struggling is that they're trying to make it work and they're trying to keep going. And if it's not working anymore, or if it's starting to decline, that trend is only going to increase, because the way B2B buyers has changed forever. They're not going back. And all you need to do is reflect on how you buy to realize that. And so we have to serve our buyers online, we have to recognize that marketing, I need another drink of coffee. We have to realize that marketing is not tactical. If we don't have senior in-house expertise for marketing, we won't be able to have an effective marketing strategy, because it's a very specific skill set. And yes, everyone can take their hand to trying out marketing, but it's very specific. And, like I said, I spend most of my time researching, reading, keeping on top of the trends, the shifts, how things are changing, so that my clients don't have to. But if we're trying to just kind of bumble along, trying different things, that didn't work, this didn't work, that works a bit, let's try another thing. Like, if we think about the fact that we used to have business development people doing the majority of the work, we'd never expect to get results from our sales efforts without having salespeople. So now it's like, how do we expect to get results when marketing is doing, let's say it's 80% of the sell is through marketing, when it's a new inbound connection we haven't already got, to get them in front of the people that can provide those consultative answers and really get stuck into even more detail. Once we realize that has changed forever, and I'm sorry, a lot of people don't want to hear this because they don't like it, and that's okay, it's fine. But often the things we put it down to, it's price sensitivity, people don't want quality, it's just about cost. A lot of the time, that actually isn't the case. It's just that we have been unable to demonstrate through brand positioning, through effective marketing, that we would be the best choice. So have a look at those studies. If there's any last questions, I've still got some time. Thank you for being here. If anyone would like to hop onto my podcast, just go on Spotify or Anchor FM, Jade Tambini, search the B2B marketing gap. It's a little bit more on these topics. I'm going to be live every Wednesday at 2:00, so you can join me there. And yeah, I really look forward to speaking to you all again. I'm going to hang around a little bit longer because I know that there's a lag, and I didn't realize this. There's a lag between my stream and LinkedIn. And while I wait for any last questions or comments, I want to say a public thank you to Bethan Wright, because she suggested StreamYard, one of my friends and fellow marketing consultants, agency owners. She suggested StreamYard, and it is way better for LinkedIn Live. It was horrendous on Zoom, so it definitely was helpful. So just checking the comments. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, no problem. I'm very happy to have read your question. Thank you, Jacob. And I think that's it for today. So join me next Wednesday at 2 p.m. and that is UK time. So if you're in the US, because I know a lot of the people, especially over on TikTok, you guys, I know that a lot of you are on different time zones. Hey, Joel. Oh, good to see you. If you've got a question, feel free to chuck it in, because I'm just here. I'll sip my coffee for a minute. And anybody who's watching this on my feed after we've been live, feel free to drop comments on. Feel free to drop comments onto the post, and I will definitely cover them in my next live, and I'll also answer you directly. So while I wait to see if Joel needs anything, I've got another question on TikTok. Cool. Could you comment more on fighting price war with brand positioning? Oh, I love these types of questions. Thanks so much. Right. Yes. Definitely. So one of the quotes that I found super interesting when it comes to brand positioning or price sensitivity in B2B marketing is that what we have is so it's a quote. So buyers will buy on price alone when they are given no reason why else. So if I present to you 4 solutions, let's talk about a consumer product just because it's easier. Okay, this is my microphone that I'm using right now. This is the Lee Reel, and it's awesome if anyone does TikTok or anything like that. This is the Lee Reel microphone, and this was £35. If I had 4 different products here and they were all the same price, or one of them was £70 and this one's 35 and the other 2 were the same-ish, unless the £70 product can tap into my pain points and tell me this issue you're facing, if you go with the other options, is going to be a real problem for you. So you need this one. You need the £70 one. If they don't do that, I'm going with this one. Okay. So for example, something that's tricky with this one is that because right now the headphone is plugged into the phone, I can't also have headphones because I need to buy new headphones that are wireless. So I couldn't have a conversation with this microphone. Now, if the £70 one was like, hey, do you know, if you're going to be in the future doing TikToks, you need to listen and make sound, that you're not going to be able to do that with the cheaper ones. So you need ours. If they gave me 2 or 3 of those, or if we think of other products we buy, if they can tap into something, if they can tap into a pain point in order to justify me moving up a tier in what I'm going to buy, I'm going to buy it. And it's exactly the same with a B2B company. If you're not the cheapest, we need to find a way to demonstrate through brand positioning why that is. And so what is it that we can say about why it's more expensive? Because there will be a reason why a company is more expensive, and it usually comes down to quality, and it comes down to approach being more robust. For example, like if you were a consultancy business and you're selling time, a reason why you might be more expensive is that you're actually putting more thought into issues that could come later down the line, which means that you can use that as a fear pain point in a sense that, do you know what, there's so much overwhelming evidence in our industry that if you cut out these steps, then these are the challenges that happen, which means that these are the issues you'll face. So we can use that throughout our marketing, talking about frustrations and pain points. And we're not directly saying the cheaper options are really dangerous. We're just finding ways to make people aware. And it's like with anything, things are, if you believe in your product and you believe it's priced right and you believe that you can help your end customer better than anyone else, because for me, that's what marketing should be. Like, we have to feel passionate about what we do, and we have to find out, why are we more expensive? And if we can't answer that in a positive way, as in like, well, yeah, because they get more or because of this issue or that, maybe we need to work on finding ways to reduce the price, because actually it's because, say, our supply chain is wrong, or the way we're set up as a business the overheads are too high, or our model is not working anymore, and our competitors are more agile and lean than us. So looking into that and finding ways to overcome it. And a quick example in a company that I used to work in, a really rough example, but I worked that's in a head of marketing role for a global PLC, one of their divisions, and the brand positioning was that our part of the business was 100% recyclers. So I'm going to really dumb down this because it's a very complex sector, but we met with the salespeople met with a really big retailer, a very well-known UK retailer, to secure the national contract for their waste management. And the question, a bit of an anecdote that we had for years in our marketing department, was the question from the buyers at that really large retailer was like, why should we go with you? You're smaller than these well-established, big, huge waste management companies who've got way more experience than you in managing infrastructures of sites and waste management. Why should we work with you over them? And because our brand position was really solid, it was like, okay, so your goal is to achieve 100% of waste diverted away from landfill sites. And they were like, yeah. We're like, great. So do you want to choose the biggest landfill waste operators in the UK? Or do you want to invest in the partner who owns no landfill whatsoever and is based on 100% recycling? And it kind of like, you could see it click. So where before we might be like, oh, I know we're not as big as them, we're a smaller player, but we're really committed to service. They're like, yeah, no, but I expect service. Everyone's going to give me service. It was, why would you go with them? Your goal is the complete opposite to their profit line and why they're in business. We're 100% aligned with what you want to achieve. And so it's really about finding out, what is it that about your business that warrants and justifies that addition. So that they did win that account, and I'm sure so much more went into it than just that one sentence. It was a huge account for the key accounts department, and they are amazing sales guys, key account people. so much went into winning that account, but it's just interesting that the brand was able to help in a way like that. And that was directly about brand positioning. Thank you so much for that question. I love brand positioning questions. That's great. So I am actually going to leave now, unless anyone wants to quickly jump something in. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. And I haven't finished my coffee. So have a great rest of your day, everybody. And I will see you live next week at 2 p.m. on LinkedIn and TikTok. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys. I don't know how to end the live on TikTok. Bye.